felt like a secret society of wizards and wordsmiths, magicians meant to find you that you were meant to find, like rappers I listened to and memorized in history class talk specifically to me, for me. And sometimes you'd see a kid whisper to himself in the corner of a bus seat, and you asked if he rhymed and traded the verse like a fur pelt, trapping the...
Senn had a special guest speaker on February 26. Kevin Coval, one of our founders of Chicago's Louder Than a Bomb Festival, paid a visit to our freshmen. He showcased his unique poetry and welcomed questions from students. Let's put our fingers together and snap this story into action.
So what does it mean to visit like a high school that is so diverse like Senn High School?
I love it, man. I mean, it's what Chicago looks like, and so it's refreshing. The way that the city is structured and planned is intentionally trying to limit the interaction between working peoples and between communities of color. And so I think the space of this school is potentially very powerful, especially if we continue to have real discussions about why Chicago is as hyper-segregated as it is. What is the real history of being here? And it's powerful to look into the audience and to see that there is the city reflected in its myriad of beauty.
Here, folk move. Turn the foot, Roadrunner and Michael Jackson. Up rock on amphetamine. Dance in the war zone. And the war on drugs.
I think it's important to be interested in the stories of others, right? And so I think part of what is also interesting is to ensure that your own story is also told, particularly by a culture, a society, a country that continues to overlook and undervalue the stories of the many, right? It's part of the reason why history is written as it is because it's often only told by those who are in power. And I believe in the power of the many and not the power of the few. And so I also believe that, the multitude of stories that we have access to, that we see in this auditorium or that we see in the city are important to share.
Or you want to go together? Okay, we're doing two of them, I guess.
Getting close.
We even had some special performances from two Louder Than a Bomb poets, Cleo Shine and Victor Mansoni.
Searching for a breath of cool air amongst a cloud of smog, and middle schoolers are vultures awaiting my demise to pick at the remains, but I can escape the smog when I escape the city that lives within the 3-story high beige building full of scantrons and scaffolding, because 12 years old is the escape. Escape from schemas and stereotypes, expectations and evaluations. 12 years old is a transformation to new sexualities and explorations. 12 years old is bittersweet.
When the women in my family break, you can see their spirits 9/11 to their feet. You can see them take step after step over their rubble. The destruction spread far and wide across their bodies. The women in my family will implode and search for their pieces forever.
I feel like if, as educators, we are continuing to teach that there's only one form of English, then that's shame on us. Do you know what I mean? If your educators or your teachers are assuming that there's only one standard way to say a sentence or a word, then that is limited the imagination and the reality of how languages are said and explained.
And so I believe that each story is of great value and could ultimately change the way we think about the whole society. And so I think if we aren't in the business of telling our own story, of listening to the stories of others, then we're really missing out on the diversity, the beauty of what citizenry goes through.
A special thank you to Kevin Coval for sharing the uplifting words, and here's hoping for much success in the future.